The United States is about to issue an arrest warrant by the State Department against Jose Luis Rodriguez Zapatero for multiple crimes, including money laundering and drug trafficking, alleged drug trafficking from the Los Soles cartel, led by Nicolas Maduro and Diosdado Cabello.
Because records have appeared and disappeared, reports have appeared and disappeared, notes have appeared and disappeared. The total of the notes in some places says 90, in others 100, in others 95. But if you add them up point by point, it turns out they didn't even add them up correctly. Mafia or magic?
De la Espriella, if there isn't massive fraud or massive violence, he will win and be the next president of Colombia, along with his running mate, who is even better than him. He's an amazing guy.
Something important on the 9th. Begoña Gomez has been summoned. Careful, because there have been a series of moves there. I don't know if it's passport withdrawal. I don't know if it's pretrial detention, bail, because there's been an important development. Complutense University has demanded money from Begoña Gomez, 113,000 euros. And when the judges have a party that asks to be compensated, so they necessarily have to freeze the money for Zapatero, they froze his money by blocking his account.
Macron has declared Arabic as the official language of France. I think that's already suicide. It's the acknowledgement that France has ceased to exist. It's surrender. Well, Spain is on that path. I mean, starting to broadcast in Arabic on Spain's public television is exactly the path to suicide. Listen, if an Arab comes to Spain, they come to integrate into Spain, first to work, to pay into social security, and to integrate, and therefore they have to learn Spanish, because that's just common sense.
Castillón Confidencial, by Albert Castillón.
Welcome, how are you? Insiders, how are you doing? Strength, honor, and let's keep bringing you truthful informati on a channel that doesn't accept public money. There aren't many who do this. Thank you for being there, for supporting it, for hitting like, and for being part of this family. Rodriguez Zapatero intends to attend next Monday the Congress of Deputies to see the Pope. He wants to clean up his image and takes every opportunity to do so, as long as the place is restricted, closed, and controlled. He knows he can't walk down the street anymore without being insulted or yelled at. No, he doesn't leave his house in Aravaca. He keeps meeting with his lawyers and preparing his strategy for when he faces the judge in a few days. He knows that in that first statement, they will definitely take away his passport, and it's possible they will require him to report to the courthouse every 2 weeks. That's unless he's placed in pretrial detention. Preventive detention, which is a possibility. Zapatero is very uneasy because he doesn't understand what has happened, and he's reading everything that's being published about him, including what we're saying here, who tried to escape the day before, and that Venezuela, by order of Delcy Rodriguez, sent him a plane to the Dominican Republic so that he and his family, who had already bought tickets, could flee to that country, and that boarding pass alerted the United States authorities, who prohibited Delcy Rodriguez from carrying out that action, from doing that. But we have been in contact with sources close to the White House, and we have asked them if that other rumor going around existed, if it was real. The tip-off that someone warned Zapatero in Spain that if he traveled to the Dominican Republic with his Air Europa tickets already purchased, the authorities would be waiting for him there from the United States. And it was better to face a sentence in Spain than to end up in the Brooklyn jail alongside Alex Saab or Maduro, both of them friends of Zapatero. And gentlemen, the answer is no. The United States was not waiting for Rodriguez Zapatero in the Dominican Republic. In fact, If he had taken the plane and fled even to Caracas, they would have let him reach Caracas so they could extract him from Caracas to a prison in the United States. It's easier. It's a country they control now 100%. They don't want conflicts with the Dominican Republic, which is cooperating in all the attacks being carried out both in Cuba and in Venezuela. Therefore, no, at that time there was no arrest warrant for Zapatero. But what they tell me is that in a matter of days there could be one. The United States is about to issue an arrest warrant by the State Department against Jose Luis Rodriguez Zapatero for multiple crimes. Among them, money laundering and drug trafficking, alleged drug trafficking by the Cartel of the Suns led by Nicolas Maduro and Diosdado Cabello. That arrest warrant will be made public in a matter of days, because the United States does have and has seen the famous video that Victor de Aldama, showed to Dani Esteve or Ana Rosa on television. The video of a Plus Ultra plane full of white packages on the seats and pallets of white packages in the cargo hold. That video, which Israeli intelligence reportedly obtained, as we told you here a few days ago, would be the definitive proof that the company Plus Ultra participated in drug trafficking for the Los Soles cartel to transport those drugs from Caracas to Equatorial Guinea, and from there by plane, supposedly through Plus Ultra, to the rest of Europe. And it would prove Zapatero's connection to the scheme. What's more, those American sources tell us that they have evidence that Plus Ultra not only allegedly transported drugs on its flights, but also valuables. They mention money and gold bars in large quantities. The United States is not concerned about Zapatero's possible illicit activities in Spain, nor about Chinese interference in our country, nor about taking bribes in exchange for gold bars from oil smuggling. The United States is only pursuing Zapatero for drug trafficking and the alleged laundering of Venezuelan drug money. And one more connection is being investigated. Gentlemen, fentanyl, stopping fentanyl, which kills hundreds of thousands of Americans, is Donald Trump's goal. The country that manufactures the chemical compounds for fentanyl is China. The ones who mix them to later distribute them in the market are Colombia and Venezuela. And from Venezuela, it was distributed to the United States and half the world. They are looking into Zapatero's possible connection with those chemical compounds. Could the former Spanish Prime Minister have been involved? I'm asking because there isn't more information yet. Could he have been involved in sending those chemical compounds used to make fentanyl from Chinese companies to Venezuela? If that were the case, the accusations against him would be even more serious. The United States doesn't forget, and it will end up making Rodriguez Zapatero pay for it, whether it's today or in a month. They never forget a target that has been a priority for them. And by the way, we're told that Rodriguez Zapatero's daughters not only have 2 properties, 2 apartments in the Valdezarza neighborhood in Madrid, but they would also have many other properties in Spain under third parties' names. It seems that the United States is more advanced in this than the UDF police investigation, at least as far as we know. Friends, this is just the beginning. The investigation continues. Zapatero remains surrounded. Wounded? Not sunk. And the next few days will be crucial to know the outcome of his future, which we predict will be very bleak. Welcome, we investigate.
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.
Gentlemen, In the last few hours, you may have heard a lot of mainstream media saying that the case against Sanchez's brother is falling apart. I've even read that there was a sense of a comeback. No, don't believe it. What they're saying isn't true. It's true that one charge, which was only a fine, a minor offense, the court considers it is time barred, but the main one continues and they're asking for 3 years in prison. Look, yesterday was a key day because a woman was aspiring to David Sanchez's position. And they told her there was no need for her to apply because it was going to be for the president. Well, for the president's brother. Listen.
She told me that it was something I was really interested in, the position. I mean, she sent me a WhatsApp message a few days before the interview, like 2 or 3 days, not just. And she told me that she already knew who the job position was for, that it was for Pedro Sanchez's brother. And so I decided not to show up because I believed those words. In the end, I decided to show up because the day before the interview, I received a call from the provincial council and they told me that I was summoned and asked if I was going to attend. I said no. And they asked me why not, since I was highly regarded. They were very interested in my project. They wanted to hear me and I had a chance. So they convinced me, and that's why I went, because I thought they might really be interested. But when I got there, I saw that, no, they weren't really that interested because they didn't listen to me much, nor did they ask me any questions.
As you can see, it was especially cruel that they encouraged him to apply, probably just to justify David Sanchez winning. I'll just give you one fact. In the language score, this woman was given a 0. And she speaks 4 languages. What's going on? The truth is coming out. It was a position and a job tailor-made for the president's brother to give him a spot. Not because of merit, that's for sure. Luis Maria Pardo for the private prosecution. You were there. Welcome.
I was there and it was us. Well, our prosecution is the one that blew up the trial. The latest information was that, well, everything had already been judged here, Albert, and that they were pretty much acquitted. And basically with that change in strategy, since we studied the entire report from the Central Operative Unit of the Civil Guard, we were able to prove that there are several records, that there are several reports, that there are some evaluations that were not followed. In an ideal way, with all the participants, and especially with something that people will understand, mafia or magic?
Mafia or magic?
Mafia or magic, because records have appeared and disappeared. Reports have appeared and disappeared. Notes have appeared and disappeared. The total of the notes in some places says 90, in others 100, in others 95. But if you add them up point by point, it turns out they didn't even add them up correctly. Mafia or magic?
And there are 6 witnesses who have been promoted in the Badajoz Provincial Council, and they tell me, you're in the room, that their statements are very weak. Have they bought witnesses by giving them promotions?
I don't know. No, I'm not going to discuss that until the court, since it's been suggested testimony be taken on some of them. Since we believe that the statements they have made are in some way not consistent with what has been declared and with the documents provided, and we'll see what the court decides. What is clear is that we are playing on hostile ground in hostile territory, in which the private prosecutors, and mine specifically from Justicia Europa, we are doing a huge job, because we also have the prosecutor's office acting as the defense. To our questions, to the witnesses, or to the different people appearing, and with clear documentary evidence, such as the resume where the evaluation record appears, or those evaluation records in the UCO reports. The prosecutor's office, instead of upholding the principle of legality, comes to the rescue of all the accused, right? Also claiming that if those records were stapled, that if everyone had access, that it had been a clean process. Why didn't the other applicants file a complaint? Well, because they were never given the documents, since they never really knew what had happened, because in the end, everything was somehow hidden. To specifically create that position of director of the observatories and the later Office of Performing Arts, which here in Badajoz, when I go out and ask if someone can tell me where it is, they ask me what I'm talking about.
Well, remember the face of the prosecutor. I believe my duty as a journalist is to distinguish the honest ones like Prosecutor Luzon from the sellouts, like this prosecutor named Begoña Garcia Boro. You're seeing her act as the defender of Sanchez's brother. It's very shameful to see the prosecutor's office acting like this, and we're sure she received the order directly from the Attorney General. There are some who receive orders and don't obey them, but she does. I won't make you talk more about her, since I know it would hurt you.
No, but I won't talk about her. I don't talk about her. What I'm saying is that what people are seeing in a trial that's public and where at least our questions about the documents, about the Central Operative Unit's reports, are at least being addressed in some way. The strength that this evidence should have, since it's the first indication to prove that the creation was flawed, let's see if there's any criminal liability or not, but it was definitely flawed. Because those reports that are in the emails intercepted by the Central Operative Unit and referenced by Judge Diezma, both in the order and the summary procedure, we consider them to be strong indications. Each of us defends our assigned interest professionally. We represent Justicia Europa's private prosecution, while they should uphold the principle of legality.
We have the feeling that the father of Sanchez, of Pedro and David, got his son a scholarship in St. Petersburg through connections. He worked at the Ministry of Culture, at the Author Foundation, and he was the one who awarded the scholarships. What we do know is that Sanchez's father was the manager of the National Institute of Performing Arts in 1991. That's why his brother gave the one from Badajoz that name as a tribute, right?
That seems to be the case, that it was as a tribute, since it was the Office of Performing Arts of Badajoz. It's an important detail that the audience needs to keep in mind because it's a complicated process, right? David Sanchez's procedure, since it's an administrative matter that is taken to criminal court. But it's curious that we've discovered a document because David Sanchez's position was changed. He used to be the director of conservatories, and it was turned into the Performing Arts Office, which was really what he wanted to do. And that change took place in 2022. But right before that, months earlier, the file was fabricated. The creation paperwork was cooked up. And you might ask, how do you know that? Because we've discovered that within the administrative file that was submitted in the judicial procedure, the date on which the documents were attached, which appears in a little corner, is November 25, 2021. They had to turn it into the Performing Arts Office and said, what do we have here? We can't submit these records. Why are the records added incorrectly? Why did we make errors in the reports? Why are there issues with the participants and so on? Magic, so we make a report just as it should be done, and we attach it so that David Sanchez's post can be transformed. Well, this will be confirmed, Albert, in the next few hours. Well, I would say in the next few minutes, because the agents from the Operational Central Unit of the Guardia Civil are about to testify, and they will once again spell things out plainly in another of the major cases of moral corruption that have already occurred in Spain.
So it's not just that they pulled strings for him, it's that they were also sloppy about it, right?
Of course. This is very Spanish, isn't it? I mentioned the mafia and magic because it's not just about pulling strings. Favoritism leads to serious mistakes. You only notice when you reclassify the position. And then, of course, alerted also by a complaint from Podemos, because a Podemos representative came to testify 2 days ago. He stated that, of course, when they saw the requirements and saw what was going on there, all the alarms went off. They reviewed the file and filed a complaint. The alarms also sounded for Representative Jose Maria Corton, who asked, hey, what's going on? What should we do?
I'll let you go since court is about to start. Good luck and congratulations. You're doing great with your prosecution.
Best regards to you, Albert, and everyone at Los Confidenciales.
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon. Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.
Well, I'll immediately introduce you to our distinguished guest today, but first, we have confidential news everywhere, even on the planes where ministers fly. And it happened on Monday. Last Monday, June 1st, Iberia Flight 945 from Barcelona to Madrid. In row 31 was Ernest Urtasun, the Minister of Culture, with 2 bodyguards. And by coincidence, that behind the minister in row 32 There were two police officers with a detainee, a man who was being deported to Lima, who had committed crimes. Someone at the door realizes that the minister is right in front of the deportee and asks if he'd like to move to business class. He didn't think twice about it. He ran out from row 31, went to row 6, he and his bodyguards, and immediately ordered breakfast. They didn't even leave crumbs on the tray. For one thing, you don't have to leave the row they offered you. Look, I would have gone to business class too with breakfast included. But it's curious because Urtasun, as the spokesperson for Sumar, always makes statements in the same vein as these.
When it comes to migration, what we shouldn't do is fall into the trap of the demagogic rhetoric from the right and far right, who present deportations and mass deportations as the solution to the migration issue.
Well, look, one thing is political rhetoric and another is finding yourself on a plane with a deportee to Lima in the seat behind you. Well, I hope you enjoyed your breakfast, Mr. Minister, you and the bodyguards who put up with you. The only good thing about this news would have been if he had stayed in row 31. At last we would see a minister who doesn't fly business class, but no. No matter how left-wing they are, business class is their weakness. My dear Luis Losada, how are you? Distrito TV, how's it going, buddy?
How are you, Albert? Good to see you.
It's just that a breakfast from Iberia is a real breakfast.
But honestly, I think a dose of reality for breakfast would have been better for him. And having shared with the deportee practically the same place, I think it would have been very good for him and for democratic health in general.
Well, if Yolanda Diaz were in his place, there wouldn't be a problem anymore. She would go business class without a doubt.
Directly, of course, without hesitation.
She's not going to sit in row 31, please. Roberto Crobu. How are you, my friend? Expert, psychologist, YouTuber. How's it going, buddy?
How are you all, including Luis and Albert?
Very good.
I was listening to you and I wonder, it's curious, isn't it? I mean, row 31, did you say, Albert?
Yes.
I mean, just imagine how curious they rejected every single passenger on the plane one by one until they got to row 31. And the one who accepted the offer to move to first class was the minister, right? Because, of course, I imagine they must have offered it to others before, right?
Oh, how naive you are, Robert. So naive. Yes, they've gone one by one. Well, that's just how communists are. What can I say? There's not a single communist who doesn't like a little business. Come on, please. And a VIP lounge and a free breakfast. That's wonderful. Well, it's just an anecdote, and I'm very grateful to the friend who gives us this information. It's great to have spies everywhere. I appreciate it. Well, and there's more. Many things about today shock me. For example, that the PSOE paid 45,000 euros to Lere the Fixer for professional communication services. Do you remember what Silvia Insorondo said about Lere? Listen.
So that you have all the information on the table, Lere Diaz member with no position. Her connection to party headquarters is just that, a member, says the Socialist Party. There is a photo that links her to the headquarters of the Socialist Party.
Well, now we know it's 45,000 euros more. And the dirty tricks of Sánchez, of Lere, fabricated this photo that has been published by El Debate and fabricated with artificial intelligence. And to me, it seems like a symbol, an example of the times we live in. Look, Lere's dirty tricks wanted to find dirt on Beatriz Biedma. And since they didn't find anything, even though two of Lere's people, two activists named Susana and Luis, chased her in October of 24. Since they didn't find anything, they fabricated the photograph you are seeing. The photograph was fabricated by someone named Javier Upunto. By the way, convicted of gender-based violence, he uses his own image. The one you see is him. With Beatriz Biedma, though it's not really her, it's artificial intelligence, hugging him and some open condoms on the ground next to a vintage red car. They spread it everywhere. That's not the only thing. The judge you're seeing, Luis Jose Sáenz de Tejada, also hates Beatriz Biedma because of things that happened between them in Badajoz. He too, the judge, was expelled for gender-based violence. These people get together. They are the ones who, along with Lere, prepare smear campaigns, bribery, and extortion. And if they can't get evidence, they make it up. It doesn't matter. A lie is a lie. And the order comes from the top. Luis, there's no doubt that's how it is.
Of course, because who can make that decision? Does anyone really think Lere Diaz can do that on her own? To begin with, she does it in exchange for money. Money that had previously been denied because it was said there was only the relationship of an ordinary party member. No, it wasn't just an affiliate relationship. She got paid. She got paid 45,000 euros. And not only that, but she had 22 meetings in Ferraz. And when they realized that maybe they were being followed, they had just as many, up to 39 meetings with Cerdan, who was Pedro Sánchez's right-hand man. So Pedro Sánchez was unaware of the 39 meetings Cerdan had with the fixer. He didn't know that he was paying 45,000 euros to Lere Diaz, but there's more. But who was paying for it? The manager. The manager has been charged in this case. Is she still in her position? Yes. And the Socialist Party hasn't made any decision regarding a lady who paid 45,000 euros to Lere Diaz so that she would allegedly do these things. Well, that allegedly is starting to no longer be allegedly. And to top it all off, the image of Pedro Sánchez being affectionate with one of those involved in the whole sewer affair, right? With Juan Francerano. So I think by now it's impossible for 2 + 2 to equal 22. I think we have all the evidence on the table. So now the propaganda machine is trying to tell us a childish story that really doesn't hold up. No matter how much money you put in, it's ours from our own pockets, since we all fund Spanish television. All that tacky, shabby propaganda that's trying to make us believe a story that really doesn't exist. And what exists, what all of Spain already knows, what we all know, is that the government made a decision to put money on the table, not 45,000 euros, but much more, money on the table to blackmail and extort those who were inconvenient for them. Judges, prosecutors, police officers, civil guards, and journalists, this is what happened, and it's very serious.
And the PSOE paying for the legal defenses of Abalos and Coldo, as ABC reported. Well, in the end, we all pay for it, their dirty dealings. That money had to come from somewhere, Roberto. If it was in exchange for public works, the concession increased the amount paid in bribes, right?
And I think we'll understand everything when it comes out, when we get to the root of it. Of all the cases, which is the hydrocarbons case, which is how they made a lot of money, by trafficking with the banned oil from Venezuela, moving it through the Dominican Republic, getting it to the Canary Islands. All that money was being squandered on Abalos, on what Abalos liked, obviously. Lere on what Lere liked. And Pedro Sánchez on what Pedro Sánchez likes, which is smear machinery. And look how curious that is, right? Because there's also a pattern, right? In all the, I'm going to connect all the dots you just mentioned. There's a pattern. Look, for Pedro Sánchez, for the hardcore, the inner circle of the PSOE, Santos Cerdan was almost obsessed, a fan of Pedro Sánchez, and acted on his own initiative to make life easier for Pedro Sánchez. Because, well, he was, but Sánchez didn't know it. Well, it turns out that Abalos did too. Abalos acted on his own initiative secretly without Sánchez knowing. Lere, right? It's just that Lere was a fanatic of the party too. They all acted on their own initiative. But hey, isn't it curious that all of them, well, except for Lere, but all of them, the PSOE was going to pay for a lawyer, right? How curious, they acted on their own initiative, yet the PSOE went out of its way to pay for a lawyer for them.
The question here isn't if they're going to charge Sánchez, it's when. And it's what will happen after they charge him. That's the million-dollar question. And I'm told that the private prosecutors are also managing the timing, watching for the right moment when everything is at its weakest. By the way, I'm told that Spanish television is preparing programs in Arabic and Romanian to promote the languages of immigrants. I hope no Arab or Romanian watches them because they come here to learn Spanish. The only thing left is that, on top of that, they'll end up indoctrinating you. Don't pay attention to it.
It's about votes. It's about votes.
What they want is to keep those people close because they are centers of very large immigrant communities. Those who speak Arabic, just imagine, the Romanians are also a very important community. Then there are the Argentinians who are going to be naturalized. He already has 500,000 of them. On top of that, today we discovered that he set up an express naturalization procedure.
Luis?
Look, Macron has declared Arabic as the official language of France, and that's already suicide. It's the acknowledgement that France has ceased to exist. It's surrender. Well, Spain is on that same path. I mean, starting to broadcast in Arabic on Spanish television is exactly the path to suicide. Listen, if Arabic comes to Spain, it comes to integrate into Spain. First, they must work, pay taxes, and integrate. So they need to learn Spanish. It's just common sense. If someone goes to England, they shouldn't expect people to speak Spanish. In England, people speak English. If you travel to England and want to live in England, you speak English, exactly the same. So trying to erase yourself is a guarantee of suicide. To me, it seems incredible that nations have decided to give up on themselves. What's happening in France is the trend, and Spain is following.
And gentlemen, the Pope is about to arrive in Spain. And get ready, because the Congress of Deputies has an event next Monday, and they have invited Rodriguez Zapatero, the one who never leaves his house, you know. And there are also plainclothes police surrounding his house so he doesn't try to escape again. Do you think he'll go, Luis?
No, yes, he'll go because he needs to rehabilitate his image. The Pope is a moral authority. That's why Sánchez sought a photo with him, but it didn't work out. And I think Zapatero is clearly going to try to put on an act and look for that moral cover that will rehabilitate him socially. The thing is, the jewelry scandal is so spectacular, it's so disgusting, it's so revolting, it has had such a social impact, and I don't think there's any Pope who can erase that. But that he's going to try, of course he is. Now, my question is, why did she invite him? Why did Armengol invite Zapatero? What was the criteria? Did she invite other former presidents or anyone not in Congress or the Senate? I would like to know.
It seems that she has invited all the former presidents who want to go. And I don't want to imagine Felipe Gonzalez being next to Zapatero. I find that hard to imagine in the current situation.
Well, that would be nice. Maybe he gets a little pinch. And I don't know if Rajoy will go or not. I think that also, if they're invited, I guess he'd like to go. I suppose no, I don't know.
The government of the Canary Islands has just approved, according to confidential sources from the islands, 2 million euros for the Diocese of the Canary Islands. They say it's for the expenses of the Pope's visit. Let's see, he's staying for 2 days, the 11th and the 12th. Is it going to cost us $1 million per day for the expenses? Well, the people of the Canary Islands will think about it. Meneses is right there next to where he's going to arrive.
The Pope is coming to the island, specifically to San Cristobal de la Laguna, where I live and where I have my offices, and he's going to visit the racist immigrant center. How could he not? The Pope is basically coming to whitewash the policy of massive and illegal immigration by Pedro Sánchez's government.
Why is he coming to whitewash it, Roberto? Do you think there has been a payment, a generous donation, which is very typical of Sánchez, to make a donation? And then, well, whoever it is, the World Health Organization, the FAO, the UN can come by here. Or the Pope.
Honestly, I don't know if there was money involved. What I do see is that there's an interest. Pedro Sánchez is a very good tactician, not a very good strategist, but a very good tactician. He saw the opportunity. You know what? He knows that whenever he has something in common with someone, he takes advantage of it and says, let's see, we have to bring in votes from Christians. What do we have in common with the church? Multiculturalism, the unconditional acceptance of others, okay? Let's create a narrative about that, because I doubt we'll see Pedro Sánchez. I imagine that, I don't know if the Pope will bless it. That's how you say it, right?
Yes.
Yes? To the Congress of Deputies. I don't know if he will do any kind of prayer. I'd like to see if Pedro Sánchez, for instance, will he make the sign of the cross?
No. Let's see. What was Sánchez like when he arrived at Moncloa? Interview with Risto Mejide.
Are you Catholic?
No. I'm an atheist.
Are you an atheist?
Yes.
Deeply atheist.
I'm an atheist. Plain and simple.
Some people are agnostic, while others simply have doubts.
I'm an atheist.
On the other hand, now they shower the Pope with affection.
It's an immense honor to receive him in a few days. Pope Leo XIV, I think it is, and he's showing it with his statements, with his positions that are so clear and understandable to the public, no matter where those people come from. I think he is an inspiration in a world that has never needed that inspiration and those clear, firm positions more. That they are understood, that they are comprehended by the public in the face of such challenges.
And now Luis Sanchez is going to cross himself and not the Queen. This is like a movie.
No, Sanchez is not going to cross himself. He is going to attend Mass, that's true. He hasn't gone to Mass in 8 years. He's going to Mass because he's trying to dress up as the Pope. As Almeida says, he could still show up as an altar boy. But I think that beyond that, I think what's obvious is that he's trying to use the Pope's visit for his own purposes. I have my doubts. First, I'm sure the Pope can't be bought for $2 million or even 2,000. I don't think the Pope can be bought. Second, I feel that although the government will try to use the Pope's visit for its own purposes, the Pope won't allow himself to be used. Is he really going to discuss immigrants? Yes, to share what the Gospel says, they should be treated with kindness. But be careful, because the Pope has also told immigrants, hey, you have to stay in your country because someone has to move your country forward. And you can't strip it of its resources and cause that brain drain. And secondly, he has spoken about the mafias that traffic in human beings. So I think the Pope says it all. And also about the right of states to protect their borders. So, in my opinion, that is perfectly compatible with the idea that immigrants who are here cannot be called aliens or strange beings like Trump does, because they are human beings who must be treated with dignity. And that is perfectly compatible with the idea that if they are undocumented, they have to return to their home.
Yes, but I agree with you that the Pope can't be bought, that he's not the UN. But the Vatican has always handled money in exchange for favors. Right? Look, Paloma Gomez Borrero was a friend of mine. And how did you want to have an audience with the Pope? By paying. They even had a set fee. And you paid the amount and you had an audience with the Pope. If you didn't pay, you didn't get it.
Yeah, but not that. But those are issues that are pretty irrelevant compared to the fact that you pay and the Vatican changes its doctrine. No. You pay and the Vatican beatifies someone who shouldn't be beatified. No, those things don't happen. So, and I don't think the diocese can be bought for 2 million euros. And obviously the visit, no.
No, definitely not euros.
2 million euros, that's indisputable.
If that's the case, I'm sure the amount would be different. I have no doubt about it. But anyway, let's think that's not the case. But of course...
And I make a prediction. I think that Sanchez is going to get a little something from His Holiness. He won't be praying in Congress. That's for Mass. He's going to deliver a political speech, marking the first time a Pope does so in the National Congress. And I think that political speech is going to be very relevant. In my view, Pedro Sanchez will get a slight reprimand in that political speech.
Let's listen to Sofia and Fraguas and then your opinion.
Long before the desecration of the Generalissimo's tomb, I have been writing emails to the Vatican, to every email address they have, even the press office. I have called several times. The switchboard in Rome doesn't put you through. They tell you, well, I'll put you through to the press office and you can explain, or nothing, the call starts and in the end the line drops. And another day goes by and another and you get bored. They know what the history of the PSOE is, what it did in Spain, to Christians, to Catholics. They know it perfectly well.
The last Pope, Benedict XVI, remained as Pope Emeritus, something unheard of in history. As one of the most intellectually theological popes, in his resignation letter, he handed over the powers to Francisco, but he did not reflect the transfer of the munus, which is the essence of papal power. That essence is symbolically contained in the ring of St. Peter, reusing the same gold melted down again and again, pope after pope, since the year 1262. Before there was never a ring, but there was always munus. As proof, Francisco did not receive the munus or the ring, which makes it impossible for Francisco to be pope. and therefore Prevost receives a ring without munus and a position that is chosen by a curia selected by Francisco.
Roberto, is this manipulation by the Pope or not?
I don't think the Pope is going to let himself be manipulated. And I agree with Luis. I think we might even see some surprises. And I couldn't tell you if the surprise will come from the Pope's speech or from other spheres while the Pope is here, okay? Because I've been analyzing a little bit how things are happening. It was no coincidence that what happened, that they went to search the PSOE headquarters on the day Pedro Sánchez was with the Pope at the Vatican. In the end, the Pope is an amplifier, a huge global megaphone. Wherever he goes, that place becomes the center of the news. So I wonder if there's anything that could compromise Pedro Sánchez and that could become public. Ideally, it should become public on the 8th, next Monday, Monday the 8th, and that it becomes public. Really a bomb against Pedro Sánchez, and that the Pope's visit serves as a worldwide sounding board so that he gets exposed. I don't know if it will be, I have several options. I don't know if it will be the opening of some case that could also be, I don't know if something important will happen on the 9th. Begoña Gomez has been summoned. Watch out, because there have been a series of moves there. I don't know if it's the withdrawal of a passport. I don't know if it's pre-trial detention with bail, because something important is coming. The Complutense has demanded money from Begoña Gomez, 113,000 euros. And when the judges have a party that asks to be compensated, then they necessarily have to freeze the money. Zapatero had his money frozen by having his account blocked. But they can't freeze Begoña Gomez's money because they don't know where the money in the accounts is. I don't know if we might even see a prison sentence in those days with bail equivalent to the amount being requested by the affected party, which is Complutense University for Begoña Gomez. I think we'll see something will happen.
Well, yesterday we showed a video. I recommend you watch it, a breaking news update that goes along those lines like what you're saying, but with a different intention. What we're hearing is that someone wants something to happen around those days so that Sánchez can take credit as a world leader for peace.
It could be the other way around.
And if something like that were to happen, caused by Sánchez's own circle, it would be a scandal. I hope that all we have is peace and calm during those days. Well, Garcia Margallo, gentlemen, has put forward the proposal everyone is talking about, a constructive vote of no confidence. Listen.
The only solution I can think of is what I would call a constructive vote of no confidence. To make a politically neutral, morally irreproachable, and highly respected intellectual figure prime minister, whose only program would be to dissolve the parliament, call for elections, and oversee an electoral process that is truly neutral, impartial, and fair.
Vox already did that with Ramon Tamames, who was actually from the left, but since the PP didn't propose it, it doesn't count, right? Finally, Feiju is speaking openly. It's about time. 8 years, not a single motion of no confidence in 8 years, and Vox has already brought, I think, 3, right? Now it's up to PNV and Junts, and I'm told, Luis, that Junts has said Feiju should negotiate it with Puigdemont in Waterloo. And Feiju is not going to go to Waterloo, right?
Of course not. He won't accept that humiliation. Plus, he already said in Barcelona at the Circle that he's not there to ask for or return favors. Therefore, what he's telling them is, I'm not going to humiliate myself. The change will happen with you or without you. That's what he told them. So I think it's up to them now. And the PNV knows perfectly well that nothing will change since the PNV governs the Basque country with Socialist Party support. The PNV knows that if they betray the Socialist Party, they're done for. They'll be out of the Basque presidency in 24 hours. And that's absolutely key for them. So the ball is in John's court, and now John's has to make a decision. And I think that Feiju, in my opinion, has been smart enough. Now, I think there's an even smarter move that can be made. And that is, hey, if Junts has problems, Because visually, the story of making Feiju president with Vox's support doesn't look good. Why don't they come up with an instrumental vote of no confidence with a neutral figure like Margallo suggests? And I'm not talking about someone from the PSOE.
Have you thought of anyone?
Well, the legal counsel of the Cortes, for example. A person who can give everyone a guarantee of his honesty and that he'll keep his word. There's no temptation for him to stay in power. The sole and exclusive objective is to take power in order to call elections. I think that a high-ranking official of this kind could fulfill that role perfectly well. And what? And lead the country toward an electoral process, which is what they're asking for, as Feiju says, 184 deputies. And actually, the majority of the Spanish population, according to the latest regional elections, well, around 60%. Therefore, I think that could be a solution. Does it require generosity from Feiju? Yes. But I think that in the deadlock we're currently in, it seems necessary to me. Now, I also say, if this is cooked up and reaches Sanchez's ears, which I'm sure it would, Sanchez would probably call elections because Sanchez is not going to accept the humiliation of leaving through a vote of no confidence. And be careful, because if he calls elections today, we would vote in August. And we would vote in August. With control over the postal service, it could be absolutely lethal.
Yeah. The thing about the lawyer from the Cortes, no, because it's Galindo. Galindo, you know who he is. Since Galindo has been the lawyer of the Cortes, 9 lawyers have resigned from the position because he practically needs to carry his credentials in his mouth. But we have to look for the
lawyer of the Senate, for example. Or I don't know, there must be plenty of high-ranking officials who can do it.
Yes, I get the idea. What do you think, Robert? Can we have a motion?
Or the president of the General Council of the Judiciary.
Well, most of us would agree more on that, without being completely...
Or careful, or Felipe González. I think maybe you leave the PSOE in a good position.
I think here the People's Party is afraid. They're afraid of losing face. They're afraid of losing reputation. Because if they go hand in hand with Junts, they'll have to give power to Junts. If they go hand in hand with Vox, they'll be seen as mixed up with the far right, and they don't like to be seen mixed up with what others call the far right. But we must not forget one thing. The greatest failure is not to try, and there is a moral duty. I mean, what will our children, our grandchildren say in 20 or 30 years when they study history if these people don't rewrite history because they end up staying in power like Chavismo for a quarter of a century, right? But what will they say? Look, but why didn't they try? Well, they didn't try because it didn't add up for them, because the numbers really didn't work out for them. That's really why it's a moral duty, at least to have it recorded in history for posterity, that someone tried to remove Pedro Sanchez. It should be recorded, but there's more. There's another issue. And I'm going to give the popular party the narrative. The narrative, that's the most important thing. Because right now, the reason they don't do it is because they're afraid of losing it and therefore giving more power to Pedro Sanchez and making it look like Tejo has lost the motion of no confidence. But the motion of no confidence, I think the popular party shouldn't focus it on Pedro Sanchez. Well, obviously, because they have to remove Pedro Sanchez from power. But they have to focus it as rhetoric, as a narrative against Pedro Sanchez's allies, against all those parties that are now saying Junts, Podemos, PNV, who are saying that the situation is unsustainable. But if the situation is unsustainable, why do they keep supporting Pedro Sanchez?
Because they'll never be in the position they're in now, because they'll never make as much money as they do now.
But I, as the Partido Popular, call for, that is, I request a motion of no confidence and confront those parties before their voters.
I agree.
To confront them and say, look, you're a hypocrite. You've said you don't want Pedro Sanchez, that the term is over. What are you going to do? I think that's the approach the People's Party needs to take, to address those parties and confront them in front of their voters.
There's something that's not being said, and it's the truth, and that is sooner or later the People's Party and Vox will govern together. And if Vox does what they promised, I think they will. One of the main points will be to change the electoral law so they don't have to depend on this garbage. Not on Bildu, nor on Canarian Coalition, nor on PNV, nor on Junts, nor on Esquerra. Therefore, they know that either they make a deal with the PP and set conditions for a future PP-Vox government, or they're finished. Because if things go as they seem, we have to put an end to the territorial power of those who have 0.1%, which is what's happening now. I have a proposal for the insiders. Who do you think would be the best person to serve as president in this instrumental motion of no confidence? Give me some names. Supposedly, it's someone who isn't in any party, although Felipe Gonzalez has been mentioned here. But anyway, give me some names. 649532435. Leave me some names, and tomorrow we'll hear who would be the candidate. And you can repeat Ramon Tamames if you want, even though it's difficult. But anyway, it's a left-wing name, and Vox suggested him. By the way, in this proposal from Feiju, Vox agrees not to be in any mini-government, which deserves congratulations.
Is generous.
It's extremely generous, and that's rare in today's politics. It's really unusual, right? Look, politics runs on connections, and in the case of Sánchez, on bribes, extortion, and threats. But Sánchez had a great teacher, Jose Bono and Zapatero. The thing is, Bono is smart, Zapatero isn't. Jose Bono became a trending topic on Spanish television when he confessed he was Minister of Defense, so he led the CNI, the intelligence agency. And he kept more than 100,000 photos and files that he still manages to this day. Listen to him, these are his words.
I've kept it. It's something innate because, of course, look, I have 117,000 documents and 57,000 dated photographs. That doesn't happen in a day.
This is the CCI, it seems.
No, it's that habit. When I received the photos, for example, I would scan them, choose, identify who was in the photograph and waste time on it, but it has been very useful to me.
It has been very useful to me. It's like he got rich and they don't charge him with anything. Every time they charge him, coincidentally, the case ends up being filed away. Luis, are we dealing with an alleged blackmailer?
Yes, but there's something worse. He says that he did it himself. I think it's impossible for him to take photos, archive them, and label them with names and all that for 50,000 plus 117,000 documents. There aren't enough minutes for that. The state did that. That is, the CNI did it. Therefore, it doesn't belong to the Minister of Defense. The Minister of Defense has stolen information that belongs to all Spaniards and is allegedly using it for his own benefit. This is what I find most serious. If he used the information he obtained himself, it would just be blackmail. But this is worse. He's blackmailing us with something that belongs to us. And I think this is unacceptable. And also with information that obviously, allegedly, is highly sensitive. It's so sensitive that he admits it has been very useful to him.
Blackmail, bribes, defense ministers who keep hundreds of thousands of files. Gentlemen, in this country, this is paradise. They used to say it was the Catalan paradise. No, come on. This is a Spanish paradise where nothing ever happens. About the government, Dominguez, Esmeralda, Jose, David, and Sylvia.
After everything that's known about Zapatero and this government, now we add the crime of high treason, which for me, along with what's supposedly about to come out, drug trafficking, what else has to happen, for God's sake, in this country for people to take to the streets and kick this government out?
Everything was planned here in Spain at the famous meeting in Barcelona. All the instructions for everything that's happening in America and also in Europe came from there. Remember who the president of the Socialist International is?
Well, and this goes for Paye. It goes for the majority of socialists that once Sánchez is gone, they're going to brag saying, no, this couldn't be, no. Those of you who aren't speaking up now, later I don't want any of you. And Paye, first of all, beating your chest or anything like that. Paye is a coward.
Stealing is cheap. Do we need to prepare a change in the law? When someone is guilty of corruption and has taken money, what they have to do is, until the money appears, they stay in jail and their sentence doesn't start running
This Mr. Zapatero doesn't fool anyone. He never has. He has the face of the devil, just like Sánchez. Both of them should be locked up. That's my humble opinion, along with the whole government, because in the end, they're a criminal and corrupt gang that we shouldn't allow to run our country.
And yesterday we told you that the captain of the UCO, Yepes, is under investigation for revealing secrets and allegedly taking money from several schemes, including the hydrocarbon scheme. He's teaching ethics classes at the Civil Guard School in Valdemoro. Okay, Diario called him and asked, "What are you doing teaching ethics classes?" And he said this:
"I'm suspended from my duties even while on leave. I'm not going to lose my position because I'm in a merit-based position and they can't fire you that easily. The urban structure of the UCO comes up in several cases."
He's talking about the UCO. I mean, they're not going to fire me from my position. I'm on leave and I'm going to keep teaching ethics classes. I think it's a symbol of how Spain is right now. Robert, come on, your origin is Italian. You come to this country and see this indicted by Chivato, allegedly giving ethics classes. How does that make you feel?
Well, if I told you everything I had to do to validate my degrees and be able to work here in Spain, right? And then you see that this man teaches ethics classes, just like someone who claims to be a feminist because he's a socialist. That the High Commissioner of the DENA was working, getting paid from public funds for 30 years in a position that required a degree he had faked. And when you go to see also that this is the last thing, the file, right, for the validation of the conductor's or musician's degree, whatever it was, of the president's own brother, you realize that there's neither a Hague apostille nor was the translator a sworn translator. And you say, well,
you have to...
Why do I have to go through this? Well, in the end, we go back to how we started. I mean, you sit on a plane, right? But in the end, the first class seat is offered to the minister, not to you.
Of course, of course. If you have connections or 120,000 photos as a bonus, you'll never have a problem. But if you go through life on your own, well, Annabelle reminds me of something that happened in the last few hours, the Laneto cross. Someone went up there with a grinder and cut down the cross that's under the snow, the one that's still at the top of Laneto. They've gone up twice to put it back.
An 18-year-old French boy, just 18, who went up about a month ago or so to Mount Aneto with a wooden cross he made himself, and he carried it up specifically to replace it. The one someone had removed, the one someone had taken down, which was the original cross, which was made of iron, aluminum, or something like that, they must have brought a grinder and threw it down the mountain. It hasn't been found yet because it must be hidden under the snow. When the thaw happens, I imagine it will show up. Well, this cross that this guy put up about a month ago or so, they took it down again, but he and some of his friends have put it back up again.
What strength this kid has, and that he's the one who did it twice. What's going on? Isn't there anyone else besides an 18-year-old French kid, Luis?
Well, it's heroic on his part, and it's humiliating for Spaniards. That on a cross, on a Spanish hill, a Frenchman has to come to restore that symbol. Well, I think that doesn't speak very well of the Spanish, but it does speak very well of him. And it speaks very badly of those who are constantly boycotting that symbol, which doesn't bother anyone at all, which is a symbol of brotherhood, of fraternity, of unity, and that in reality everyone likes. I think that's where there really is a hate crime. Of those who consistently can't tolerate a cross, like the government of Spain or Zapatero, who dislike the cross at the Valley of the Fallen, there is a radicalized ideological obsession of hatred against the cross. What there is Christophobia. And I think that's very disturbing. By the way, the government considers hate crimes to include crimes of Islamophobia and crimes against Zionism, against the Jewish religion. It doesn't specifically consider attacks against Christians, who are actually the majority, And in this case, it's especially outrageous because they put it up, take it down, put it up, take it down. Come on, just leave it alone already.
That's it. And finally, I have more than one confidential source who sent me the photo of the police officer in Valencia pushing a teacher during the protest. The image is shocking. Gile leaves us a message about it, and we recall the scene.
That shove he gave her from behind, this woman could be pregnant or have some medical condition or something. What I'm asking is that his badge be taken away and that he never wears that uniform again, because he doesn't deserve to wear it.
Being a police officer, gentlemen, is much more than an honor. Even though they are treated terribly, even though they earn less than other forces, it's not even considered a high-risk profession. You represent the state. You can't act that way. I've been told that an investigation has been opened, Robert, and that he has been removed from there. But something was going on there. He already came in wary. He came in with anger in his body, right? This needs to be investigated.
We have to look at it in context, right? With this, I'm not justifying it, but I'm explaining from a psychological point of view what happens when your heart rate goes up. You don't think the same anymore. You don't process information the same way anymore. But in the case of this woman who was there alone with her back turned, she didn't pose a threat. The threat was actually the police officer, right? It's curious. I think, look, it's one of those times when I think we all agree it's no longer about politics, but about seeing a behavior, calling it out, and openly opposing it, because it seems that when you buy a, let's say, or you commit yourself to a philosophy or political movement, it seems like you're doomed to buy into the whole ideological package, right? If you're right-wing, you have to unconditionally support the police. No, man, support the police. But the police aren't just one officer who, at a certain moment, for whatever reason, snaps and acts in a way that's obviously condemnable.
Luis.
I don't know the specific situation or have seen the footage, but I want to say two things. First, I believe the police officer has an obligation to exercise self-control. If their stress increases, they must endure it. It's part of their professional duty. And I think that, in general, the police do an extraordinarily good job. Second, if there has been police abuse, it should be condemned. Honestly, I don't know if you know this, but 2% of the police force is expelled every year. That means the internal control system works reasonably well. Third, if the police tell people they have to leave and they don't, it's their duty to clear them out.
Obviously.
And if someone stayed and disobeyed the police, they have no right to complain. Because police are obligated to maintain order, and the police cannot lose. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know about that.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yes, it is.
One thing is to clear people out. Another is to deliberately attack a woman from behind. But
I also want to say, Albert, I also want to say something that sometimes being sent off, as could be the case here, can actually be a good thing for the police officer himself. Because in this case, we've all seen it, but if this person at a certain heart rate starts acting so randomly, to put it one way, to use a euphemism, imagine if he had a weapon. I mean...
no, well, there you go. Psychologically, there was something wrong with this man and he can't be there. Friends, thank you for your thoughts. I'm still in the trenches. I'm going to Colombia to see what happens with the elections. Hugs, Luis. Hugs, Roberto. And take care.
See you soon.
Friends in the newsroom, last messages. Susana Gash, tell us.
Here we are. Greetings to everyone from the Castillon Confidential newsroom with our insiders. This is the case of Teresa. She says she is very happy about what happened with Vega. The interview you had with Carmen Mestanza, the owner of Vega, who won against the Junta of Andalusia. Teresa says she is very happy for this lady. And she also thanks you, Albert. The people save the people, and some help from you is essential. Thank you, and long live La Vega. Loli also says, jail now, motion of no confidence, indefinite general strike. What else can ordinary citizens do? All my support to the brave and honorable judges and to the YUCO. All my support also to the journalists who do not allow themselves to be corrupted, like Albert Castillon and his entire team. Salud Garcia also says thank you to Carmen, thank you to Albert, thank you to Justice, thank you to each and every Spaniard who fought to defend Mother Nature. Teresa says she is from Valencia and also thanks everyone for all the work that is being done from here, from many places every day. I am a lady who is 90 years old and I am still with you. I watch your show every day. May God give you lots of health so that we can watch that fantastic programming every day. And above all, thanks to all your collaborators. Alfonso also says that for Spaniards to be equal before the law, political privileges and parliamentary immunities should be eliminated immediately. Marisa also writes to us. She says that we don't know where we're going to end up. The flags are on the ground. Zapatero seems to say yes and then no. Sánchez says Spain is doing better than ever and everyone is involved in corruption. And all we can do is keep working every day, pay our taxes and be up to our necks. I don't see any solution to this. And if we add the Pope to this, who I don't know what he's doing in all of this, we also don't know where we're going to end up, as I said. And we'll leave it here, Albert. It's important that you keep sending us all the messages you want. And above all, don't miss any of the podcasts we have posted on our channels. Thank you, Albert.
Thank you very much, Susana. Ivan is in Peru, in Lima, and he reminds us that this coming weekend is the second round. And pay attention, there too it's the right against the communists. Listen.
This Sunday is the second round of presidential elections here in Peru between two candidates. On the right is Keiko Fujimori, and on the left, what a coincidence with Spain. That's why we're always united. The candidate is Sánchez.
Please let no one vote for Sánchez in Peru, please, especially with that name. With all due respect to the Sánchezes, with all my affection. But you know why I say it. We've been suffering here for 8 years. And Rosa tells me how the TV stations in Spain treat de la Espriella, who is going to be the president of Colombia.
On the Antena 3 news, which we all know is more aligned with the Popular Party, well, it turns out they've called this man, who's like a Bukele type or a Millie type, more like a Bukele type, that's how I see it. They've called him the far-right candidate. I mean, unbelievable.
Well, that's what they call him everywhere. I mean, the media that wants to harm him. They call him far-right, but they've never called Pablo Iglesias or Sánchez far-left. No, never. Well, we're going to Bogota in a minute.
You're listening to Castillon Confidencial.
Gentlemen, we've had our eye on Colombia ever since our favorite candidate De La Espriella won, and Gustavo Petro said that ridiculous thing about electoral fraud. Well, not even his candidate, Gustavo Petro's, nor the prosecutor's office, nor anyone else recognizes any fraud at all. The risk is the second round, that there are no interferences, because terrorist groups have already emerged that occupy a large part of Colombia's territory and control rural areas. Saying that De La Espriella is not one of theirs, of course, since he wants to put an end to the drug trade and those who control the guns. Who is in Bogota to tell us the latest news? Pilar Almagro, how are you, dear?
Hello, Albert. Hello, Confidenciales. Well, here I am, yes.
Hey, you made a good bet and you won the bet. You said De La Espriella was going to win and he won. Congratulations.
But not in the first round, but in the second. But he won in the first round. I mean, the comeback was spectacular. And Paloma, who had more votes than De La Espriella at the beginning, ended up with just over 6%. And he got 43.72. I mean, it's impressive. And so, of course, the problem is that Petro's candidate, Cepeda, absolutely had to win in the first round. Because in the second round, the right and the center unite. They were scattered in the first round, but in the second round, everyone comes together. On the other hand, Cepeda already had the support of all the left-wing groups. Cepeda can't grow in the second round. But in the second round, De La Espriella can grow a lot. De La Espriella, if there isn't massive fraud or brutal violence, will win and will be the next president of Colombia, along with his running mate, who is even better than him. He's an amazing guy.
You always talk about his team, which is very well prepared. Even the father of the murdered former Senator Miguel Uribe supports De La Espriella in the second round. So where's the danger here? In fraud? In Gustavo Petro, who always stacks the deck? What's the risk?
Well, what Gustavo Petro is doing is unheard of, because where have you ever seen a president say they won't accept the result of an election? That's just not his role. A president has many responsibilities, but that's definitely not one of them. And to this day, he still hasn't corrected himself. As you said, Cepeda is the one who corrected himself even without accepting the results, and saw there was no electoral fraud. Because what there is electoral fraud on their side, and a lot of it. De La Espriella isn't fazed by that either. He says, let's move to the second round. But there has been fraud. Social media is full of all the frauds they've committed. And in this second round, they'll do even more. But the truth is that it's very difficult for them. Just yesterday, there was a spontaneous demonstration of young people here in Bogota in favor of Cepeda. I mean, for De La Espriella to win is almost a miracle, because one of the things they'll have to do is educational. Here, of course, cultural Marxism is present in almost all institutions. Just like in Spain, just like in Europe, it's in almost all educational institutions. And people come out with very good intentions, young people thinking that this is the right thing, that they're going to be very good by stealing from some people what they have and giving it to others. With the socialist leaders keeping 90% of it for themselves along the way. So we need to do a tremendous educational job, because if not, the left will win again next time. And socialism wants to get to power no matter what. Before, it was through revolutions. Now it's much cheaper and easier because it's through the ballot box. Talking about kindness and shared goods and all that, which is absolutely false, because first you have to steal it from the one who earned it by getting up at 5 in the morning every day. But anyway, they managed to convince charitable souls that this is a very good thing. And then they stay in power, clinging to it no matter what. I mean, they have to get to power and then cling to it. And that's what they've done in Venezuela, what they've done in Nicaragua, what they're trying to do in Spain. What?
In Brazil, everywhere.
Everywhere. And here it's the same.
And the risk is the guerrillas. That is to say, there are areas where they take a ballot box, fill it with votes, and a man with a semi-automatic stands in front of it, and nobody votes there. This happens.
Well, if we look at the map, Albert, where Cepeda has won, it matches exactly with the areas dominated by the guerrillas and by the indigenous people. Keep in mind that Cepeda's presidential ticket includes an indigenous leader. Just like the current vice president, who is Petro's running mate. So this indigenous leader has called for a general uprising. And the armed indigenous people called the Minga go in trucks and enter different towns to intimidate people and make sure they vote for Cepeda. And this is happening in many towns. The other day, my neighbor was telling me that in her town, she said, we're lucky because the only way in is over a bridge. So all the neighbors blocked the bridge, she said, and they couldn't enter my town in the Santander area. But then the Minga and the guerrillas come, town by town. And besides, it was also detected that a lot of people were coming from Venezuela to vote. People who had disappeared were voting.
No.
What's going on? I mean,
Cepeda didn't get 41. He would have gotten a 30-something maybe. The rest is that fraud, right? That slow drip. Well, and I understand that if De La Espriella was a target to be killed and they'd already tried, and we see him with that extreme protection, now even more so.
Of course. And actually, the other day, just yesterday, he said that through intelligence, he had received another warning about an assassination. Let's remember that last year, Miguel Uribe Turbay was killed, and he definitely can't compete in these campaigns. You said that it's his father, and his father wanted to take his place, but well, he just doesn't have the same appeal that he did. And his mother was also killed, Miguel Uribe Turbay's mother. She was a journalist, and the guerrilla group, they took her, and during the process of freeing her, she died. I mean, here you risk your life if you want to enter a presidential race. And they've already killed 2 of the coordinators. They already killed De La Espriella the other day.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends from Colombia, and there are many watching us, this is a unique opportunity to put an end to all of this. To put an end to the guerrilla, to the threats, to drug trafficking paying for your campaign like they've done with Petro. Yes, maybe we'll have to do a Bukele. Yes, it's possible. But it's a unique opportunity for us to be able to visit again, to travel around Colombia, and for it to be a democratic country. I hope they allow it. I know that the United States is giving a hand to De La Espriella, but they're dealing with so many issues that I don't know if you'll see them around there.
Albert, it's just that De La Espriella is an American citizen. He has dual nationality. And he made a call now when neither Petro nor Cepeda wanted to validate the results of this first round. He made a call to Trump, and Trump immediately issued a statement saying that Colombians had the freedom to choose whoever they wanted. He issued the statement immediately. So the United States is behind this, and I think that's why things have calmed down.
I hope that's the case. We're keeping an eye on it. There are 15 or 20 days left until the second round, and you'll tell me about it from Bogota. A kiss to all our followers in Colombia. There are many of them. Thank you.
A hug. Goodbye.
A kiss, Pilar.
Castillón Confidencial by Albert Castillón.
Friends, you keep sending us photos and videos of products that shouldn't be on our shelves in supermarkets. For example, Hector sent us these photos of pears. Aren't there pears in Spain? These are from Senegal. There's the label. Or these apples that Diego from Ciudad Real sent us. And they're also from China. Look at the price, $2.99 per kilo. Fuji apple from China, category 1. Onati, what he found at Mercadona. Take a look.
As you can see in the video, this is a product from Mercadona. And what they do is the same company with the same brand, and everything is the same. The small jar says it's from Spain. The large jar says it's from Morocco.
Blueberries from Morocco. This never stops. And you often ask us how to identify the origin. Can we trust it when it says packed in or origin in such a country? Is there any code in the barcode which is already hard to see? How can we know that we're buying local products? The person with the answer is Victor Viciedo, who is a farmer and president of the Primary Sector Association and Independent Consumers. How are you, Victor?
Very well, Albert. And I'm happy to answer this question because it's very important for people to start buying products that are truly Spanish.
How can we know? Because I've been told that sometimes it says made in Spain, but it's actually made in Morocco, that they fake labels. Is that true?
Yes, let's see. The first thing we need to understand is that many people trust the barcode, the European article number 13. The European article number 13, when it starts with 84, what that means is that the company is registered in Spain. But it can also be registered in Morocco or registered somewhere else. It doesn't mean that the company is Spanish. It simply means it has a Spanish registration. So, of course, that's not a guarantee that the product is Spanish. The number 84 is not a guarantee that the product is Spanish. The origin, the problem we have is that it's not mandatory. That is, in many places, it won't tell you the origin. It will say packaged in, distributed by, or similar things. The only thing they're indicating is that the distributing company is Spanish, but it doesn't mean at all that the main ingredient of that product is Spanish. On fresh products, it should say the origin, and it is mandatory for that to be true. We've often seen how they indicate the origin in many places. Peru, Spain. And you say, what do you mean Peru, Spain? Yes, Peru, Spain avocados, that they're mixing avocados from Peru and Spain. That's fraud. That should be reported because that's against the rules. The origin is unique and the origin is inviolable. The origin is where that product was produced. Therefore, you do have to trust the origin. And if it's fraudulent, report it. it must be reported. In any case, for us, the origin is written in small print or often doesn't appear at all, because that's what's happening, right? Like we said before, it comes as processed. All right, so what we propose to the administration is that the origin, instead of being just a word on the back or not appearing at all, it should be mandatory to have a flag, the flag of the country, and that it should cover the entire back part of the label. That way, nobody has to read anything. Just by seeing the flag, whether it's from Morocco, South Africa, or wherever, you already know if it's Spanish or not. And of course, if there is fraud, it must be reported and there has to be punishment for all of this, because it's very important to know the origin of the products, mainly for your health and also for the quality of that product, right? We already know that in Spain, we have the best quality products and they are harvested at the right time and they don't come to us on ships from far away.
It's clear. It's obvious that sometimes we consumers are to blame, looking for summer products in the middle of winter, doing strange things. That's obvious. But at the same time, they tell me we've seen images in other European countries, the origin is clearly stated. There are even counters that clearly say they are local products. Why isn't that the case here?
Well, possibly because we're even more globalist than the rest of Europe, right? We need to protect what's ours. I mean, we can't allow that here when we're already producing pears. For example, in Lerida, we end up getting pears, like you said before, from Senegal. I mean, that's outrageous. That's absurd. We shouldn't allow it, not even if they were cheaper, which they're not. That's false. They're not. All right. And then it wouldn't hurt if in supermarkets, in that proposal we made, it also included that the price of the product at origin should be shown. That is, how much did they pay me for the product? So there's no price gouging. If they buy it from me for 40 cents, I understand there's a supply chain and the product is improved, but it shouldn't end up costing 3 euros. It could be 1.5, it could go up to 2, but it can't be 3 euros. Okay, so I think that by also showing the price paid at source, we would ensure that this product, on one hand, has been bought in compliance with the food chain law at a price above production costs, and on the other hand, that there is no abuse in the chain regarding the product.
So it's clear, therefore, don't trust the barcode number, don't trust that it says packaged in, you have to trust the origin. And they don't always put it because the law doesn't require it, except if it's a fresh product. So you have to look very closely. They make it complicated for us, not easy. And I understand it's to sneak in Mercosur, right? That's it.
Yes, exactly. And that origin is important. It shouldn't be a mix of countries. I mean, you can't mix the products. The origin has to be Spanish. It can't be mixed with others. Spanish origin, period.
Gentlemen, we have the best of the best. Now we just need them to make it easy for us to buy it, which it isn't. Victor, take care. All the best.
Take care, Albert.
Isabel is very committed to doing what we promote here, buying Spanish products. Listen.
They keep bringing products from farther and farther away. In a supermarket chain here in Asturias, there are grapes from India. I mean, they couldn't possibly come from any farther away. The Corte Inglés supermarket has jars of pickles in vinegar that are packaged in Murcia, but the pickles themselves, the product, are from India. For about 2 years now, I've been buying oranges and avocados from some producers in Valencia, thanks to Juan V. Payeter.
We have to support local farmers like Juan V. and Victor. It's incredible having to get grapes from India or, like we've shown today, apples from China or pears from Senegal. Come on, we're out of our minds. Well, I keep receiving very kind messages from all of you about Vega Mastanza because, yes, we've won the battle. Well, her, Carmen, and her magnificent lawyer. But here we've always supported Vega and we've been there when needed. Message from Falhar from Germany.
I live here in Cologne, Germany. Many thanks to all the people who have helped support that Vega, to prevent that Vega from being destroyed, especially to Mrs. Carmen, to you all who have spread the word. And congratulations, because this woman has spoken up and says that, well, it's been 6 or 7 incredible years of struggle.
and Maria Teresa, our news source in Uruguay.
I was really moved. I love the news that the lady won. Really, a hug for everyone. This news is wonderful. Thank you.
A kiss, dear friend, and we will cover Uruguay. Well, there's a lot to do there, but just look at the power of a video with an elderly woman saying, "My trees are not going to die alone. I will be with them." That started everything. That was the seed that made many of us mobilize and support that initiative until we won the battle. I like that people have that sensitivity in Uruguay and in any corner of the world, because in the end, the mantra that only the people save the people is really true. Absolutely true, here and everywhere. Let's go. Well, Enrique, there's an impersonator of Torrente that I really like. Enrique sent it to me. It's about Zapatero's jewels.
Guys, listen to me very carefully. The jewels they found in Zapatero's safe are for his daughter's dowries. Or what do you think, that it's easy to marry them off?
It's for his daughter's dowries because marrying them off isn't going to be easy. You have such a wicked mind. Well, but it's very well thought out. Esther sent me a video of how the DGT traps drivers by putting cameras where they shouldn't. Look.
I'm going to show you how the DGT works for our safety. Look, there's the car, hidden with a mobile radar, right on the only stretch for hundreds of kilometers where the limit is 60. That's how the DGT works.
This is the road to Arcos de la Frontera. There they are, just waiting. So instead of going 60, you go 80, and they hit you with a fine. That's not safety, that's just a money grab. Who's making them be there? Because I'm sure it's not the traffic police who want to be there. Don't have any doubt about it. Well, and Freud Lannister, Angelina sent me this. They're the two tenors, Julito, Zapatero's frontman, and Aldama, the one who tells everything. I'll sing on Pedro Sánchez. Well, they're the two who are going to sing. Aldama is already doing it, and Julito is about to reach an agreement, hopefully, with the prosecutor's office to spill the beans and reveal the real Zapatero, and we'll see it here. Well, and Emilio is excited about the new channel of the group Tu Cuerpo Sabe 2.0.
Honestly, the body knows it, the whole truth. My mind doesn't know it, but my body tells me yes, that you are a great professional, a great person. I've been listening to you every day for over a year, and sooner or later, everything comes out. To the light.
Thank you, my friend. This channel, Your Body Knows 2.0, belongs to my daughter and her team. So please support it. Watch the videos. They're just getting started. And as a good father, I'm asking you to help her to subscribe and to watch every video she uploads. At Your Body Knows 2.0. Thank you, friends. Tomorrow we'll continue in the trenches. I'll see you then.
Tú lo sabes y yo lo sé. Somos confidenciales. Tú eres confidencial. Yo soy confidencial. Todos confidenciales. Todos confidenciales. Pero solo para mentes abiertas y para gente despierta. Desde la trinchera las balas silban y no hay manera de salir allá afuera. Aquí la libertad tiene las alas de cera. Albert Castillo, Susana Gash, Tucci Castillo y demás. Muchas gracias. Skid,
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.